So I'm the co-host, the program director. So I'll be just here in the background, like you're going to know I'm here, and you can put things in the chat, and I'll make positive they're seen, that kind of thing. Actually, Ames, you want to make me the co-host so I can do that. We forgot about that part. And then we just ask something to consider. Okay, now we're going to talk about just a couple little rules. It's kind of casting an intention. Basically, what we're doing right now is we're kind of throwing a big circle amongst us, right? And we're going to cast the circle through intention. And we just ask you to consider that to set your phone aside or turn it off if you can. That makes me realize I've got to, I had my ringer on loud for Amy. So there you go. And then if you have a pen and paper, you might want to have that handy for notes. And just because it's like what jumps out, just write that down. So that's casting the intention. The theme for today's show is repair. And I've got this waiting here. This is Amy's book, Moonshots. And we're on chapter 3, the third distinction, repair. Repair is ordinary. These are at the beginning of every chapter. Repair, ordinary definition, fix or mend, a thing suffering from damage or fault. That's the ordinary definition. The extraordinary definition is acknowledge and then mend your part in the suffering or breakdown. So that is repair. That is our theme and definition of it. And so I just wanted to say that Amy pointed out at the beginning, this is an anniversary. This is an anniversary of the pandemic starting. For me, it was really, my awareness was like March 13th. And so what that gives me, I just had such immense gratitude that I have created a life that makes me stop. I probably wouldn't have stopped today. And I didn't know, I knew, but I didn't know. And so when Amy said that, I just want to say that I encourage you all to build a life of intention, of ritual, of circle, of showing up, because I showed up. I'm going to stop today and really acknowledge this. This momentous year. I just got, Amy likes to call it chicken skin. So that's about repair. There's a theme there. So this is what the next hour is going to look like. Amy's going to guide us on a journey, starting with repair exercises. First, she'll open the circle in a different way. Like I cast an intention, and she's going to do a little more circle work. And then guiding repair exercises, exploration of repair. We have 2 special guests today, Tam and Everett. And I'll introduce them to you a little later in the show. And we will close at the top of the hour, we promise. We will close at the top of the hour. We want you to know that. We won't run over. If we stop a little sooner, we'll start the Ask Amy Anything. If not, we'll close it then. And but then we open for 15 minutes. We'll stay open for dialogue and conversation. And I think that's it on all of that. And then, so now I'm going to introduce Amy without further ado. For those of you who don't know our guide today, I think most of you do, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is Amy. She's a relationship architect, a tender, powerful, generous woman skilled at building relationships with self, other, and spirit. She's a published author, and these can be purchased directly from me if you would like. And I'm handling this for Amy, so you would put that in the chat. So without further ado, Amy, please take us away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. The nudge master to the nudge master here. Thank you so much. I want to welcome everyone who's here. Thank you for being on. Those of you who didn't hear our polite request earlier, we are asking if you can have your camera on. That would be great. It helps us bring the energetic exchange. And we're also recording this, and it is being cast live on YouTube. So it's a little different. Those of you who've joined me before, it won't be quite as interactive, but feel free to use the chat. We'll be asking some questions, use the chat. And then at the top of the hour, I'll keep the room open for 15 minutes or so, and we can have more sharing and verbal exchange then. So a little bit different for those of you who've been with me before. Welcome, welcome. I opened the room with a very melodic I am sort of chanting song instead of my normal Sunday best surfaces song where I'm dancing and really getting my groove going. The joy is still there. And it's lovely, lovely. So many of you spark joy for me in my life. And I think all of you have on some degree. I'm guessing that's Jen, my cousin, but I don't know for certain. And that's Mark, my husband. Those are the only two cameras I don't see. But that joy is still in here. And there's a very somber quality to the day. The sunrise was brilliant, dark sky, and then the rains just started plummeting. So those of you who are concerned about Hawaii, we are getting massive rain, but it's Maui that's really getting the floods and the east side of our island. We have rain here, but we are safe. The joy and the warm aloha is still alive, but there's also that tenor of it's been a year. What a year it's been, yeah. And so I'm holding that for all of us because we've all have different ways of going through it. There's the chicken skin coming through me. And I want to just start the continue the circle with my quick ritual practice of lighting a candle, sharing a few breaths, and beginning and ending our time together with a bow to give that moment for the head to come to the level of the heart, to get that access, to get that information. So I brought up a different candle today. I think you can see it. Yes, Mark went to the farmer's market, got me flowers. I'm gonna light a little Palo Santo. The flame for me, the symbology there is not only elemental, connecting with that fire inside of me, that fire of aliveness, that fire of joy, that fire of love, that fire of intensity. I'm a pretty intense person. The flame and the smoke also connect me with the ancestors. They connect me with those who are not here with me in physical appearance, but I can feel energetically and I can rely on heavily. And so I'm not alone, and neither are you. This circle invites the sacredness of truth and beauty. This variety hour happens to fall on a new moon. So for the last year, during 2020, I did the full moon and new moon ceremonies, and we would always pull cards. And I've kind of moved away from that, but I've missed it with the group. So since today is a new moon, I am going to pull a card from an oracle deck called Supra. And I will just put these out. It's just a way of, for me, what this means is tapping into the unconscious, like what is all around us, what's in that space. Oh, how beautiful. The card is Everydayness. I don't know if you can see the image of just the little bird on the fence. It's a word I don't usually use, everydayness, but let's take a quick peek at what that might mean in this book. That's part of the joy here for me as well, is hearing the words about the images. There's an old biblical saying, the stone which the builders rejected as worthless turned out to be the most important of all. This is the meaning of everydayness. It is finding and recognizing the great nurturing value of humility in ourselves and in all things. It is a process of becoming attentive to the quiet and practical so that their essential beauty and strength can be revealed and recognized as the tenor or cornerstone of our lives. A life that values the everyday is one that can reach a wholeness that allows you to travel farther than you had ever imagined in the world, and more importantly, within your own mind. This practical usefulness is your own protected corner of strength in the world where you find endurance to sustain you for however long your journey is and for whatever adversities you encounter along the way. The key words: humility, nourishment, wholeness, strength, essential. Love it. So take what you can use, leave the rest. Let's come together in 3 breaths. You can bring your hands to the heart center. This is a quick nervous system reset. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose or mouth, letting go. Inhaling, being here. Inhaling. Now what? From this place, I invite us to come to a bow if you're willing and able. Beautiful. Aloha, aloha. Thank you so much. Ah, thank you, Mary, for introducing the definition of repair. It is perfectly cosmically aligned that we are talking about repair today. With the anniversary of the pandemic, the lockdown, the big pause, whatever chapter title you've given this in your life, the importance of repair cannot be understated. As I write about it in my book and play with these concepts of the distinctions of extraordinary living, repair is the third distinction within the realm of resilience. So we're still in that resilience. We're still in that place of, okay, we're doing this thing, now what? And for those of us who have tender family concerns going on, perhaps the loss of a loved one, or my mother just fell and broke her pelvis in 2 places, we have an opportunity to really bring in our own resilience and the strength of our human heart in order to allow, as I see it, greater grace to come in so that I may extend that grace to others. That's what this resilience is all about. And so with that, I stretch the spiritual muscle of forgiveness every day. That is part of my practice in resilience and repair. How do I do that? First of all, I let go of the idea that I'll ever have a different past. I embrace the idea of forgiving. I am for giving grace and opportunity to enter my heart and mind and work in a way that is indeed miraculous. I allow grace to enter and do for me what I cannot do for myself. And most importantly, I've been allowing time to come in and really massage me in a way where I have grown my tolerance to hang out with discomfort in a way that I didn't think I was capable of, without numbing out to it, without running away from it, without trying to shut it down and quiet it. I'm sitting down, having a cup of tea. Today I have my three roots Numi turmeric tea. Hello, unwholesome state of mind and heart, whether it's fear, doubt, insecurity, pain, a lot of physical pain lately. What's up? What's up? What do we get to do here? What can we learn from each other? Because the more I resist it, the more it persists. That's a classic neuroscience definition. That which we resist persists. That which we pay attention to grows. So I'm always looking for that razor's edge fine line of paying attention to the experiences of my heart and mind without dwelling on those unwholesome states. I hope that makes sense. The other way I operate with repair is I drop the stones of resentment from my heart. So I bring them right here. This is a Qigong practice. I invite all of us to do this. Pound, pound, knock gently, mildly, moderately, strongly, whatever calls to you. And then just drop that stone of resentment. Just release it. And as I shake my hand, it reminds me, and I invite you all to do this if you want. You can start shaking. I may knock my laptop down, but our issues are in our tissues and we got to give them a way out. Shake it out, shake it out. We're not going to do laughter yoga today. I'm not in that space. This is our somatic practice, is to shake out the junk. Whoa, there goes the there goes the altar of awareness. This is a beautiful rock from the Pacific Northwest that just so beautifully lives in another rock that just tried to tumble its way down. Shaking releases that stuck energy. The final practice I'd like to bring in before we turn our attention over to our special guest, Tam, is to remind ourselves of the importance of safety. One way I practice safety in my own life is to try to create it with other people in that energetic space between, by eliminating the toxins of shame, blame, and criticism. And that's been really hard for me lately. My fuse has been really short. I've been in a bit of a contraction. As my beloved Mary reminds me, this too shall pass. We contract, we expand. There's a natural ebb and flow of our lives. But in this place, it's more easy to shame, blame, or criticize. But when I catch it and I have the awareness, I realize I'm hurting myself and I'm not feeding the space between. I'm throwing toxins and poison. So eliminating that, coming back, Safety comes from within. If I am trustworthy, if I am trusting, I can be exhibiting that, practicing that with others and my environment. I come from a lot of trauma. I have to calm my nervous system down over and over and over again. One way I do that is a simple tapping between my nose and my upper lip. I invite anybody to do this. If you're ever, you can even do this one while driving. It's a quick anti-anxiety, calm yourself down point. That beautiful little, there's a name for it, I'm sure. If anybody knows, throw it in the chat. That beautiful little spot. It's so soft. It's like a little valley between the peaks. Excuse me, I'm moving all that stuff around. Tap, 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 safety. Take a breath in, bring my right hand to my left shoulder and look over my left shoulder. I am safe. Come back to the center. Take a deep breath in. Left hand to the right shoulder. Look back over. I am safe. I am safe. Coming back to the center. These simple mini practices are so powerful, so transformative. This is weaving in spiritual wisdom of the ages, weaving in the neuroscience, weaving in the ability that I can, you can, we can step into command central of our nervous system. That is the spirit of repair that I wanted to bring to us today. Okay, so without any further ado, I didn't do what was on the agenda, Mayor, but you know me, I fly with what's present in the room. So it's up to you now, dear.
All right. Yay, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. And so I want to introduce Tam. She's our first special guest. And Tam is passionate about transformation inside and out. Most recently, she founded Reclaim Your Space, a community where she guides people in transforming their homes into beautiful, healthy, highly functional spaces that fulfill their needs and desires. While she is trained as an interior designer, her superpower is truly seeing people in a holistic way that includes their physical environment as an extension of the self. In the words of a client of hers, if you would like to be in the presence of someone who will guide you through clearing your space in a way that includes emotion, imagination, embodiment, and radical non-coercion, I'm interested. Tam is the one. So I'm going to do 2 links in the chat, Tam's website, and I'm not exactly sure what she can tell you what it is, but I'm going to put them in the chat. Tam, go.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, that felt really good to hear that introduction. You know, when you kind of forget where you are, and it's so helpful to kind of reorient and be like, oh yeah, this is what I'm creating. And you know, yeah, thank you, Amy, for having me today. I'm excited. And when I began Reclaim Your Space last June, it was in response to this pandemic, because the company that I was running was a brick and mortar design build company. And on March 3rd, we grew into our first physical office space, and it was beautiful, and we furnished it and we made it everything that we'd been dreaming of for it was 9 months in the process, right? There's no accidents there. And 10 days later, everything shut down. So I got to spend a lot of time by myself in our fabulous 1,000 square foot office space. And in that time, while waiting to see what was going to happen next, I started to just allow more space in myself for possibility of how I could take the things that I was really passionate about, the skills that I had developed, and use them in an effective way in this new situation that we'd never found ourselves in before. So Reclaim Your Space was a way that I could reach people in their own homes, anywhere around the world, and share what I had learned and encourage them to create beauty, to allow their pleasure and their desire to guide them, and to create environments that were really nourishing for them, especially in a time when many of us were, you know, stuck at home. We were safe at home, but it wasn't safe for everyone, and home is not always a safe place. And so how do we create that safety, like Amy said? And that's really a huge piece for me. And so since then, I've also been studying a lot about and practicing and learning for myself a lot about healing trauma somatically and these practices. And so I weave them into my work, and it's all connected, because often what I see is that our home environment is an extension of what's going on subconsciously, or it's an expression of that. So most recently, I've gotten really excited about this idea that, like, oh, when I say that I help people transform their home, I don't just mean the physical environment outside of them. I also mean how we express ourselves here in this physical way, how we relate to our bodies, how we treat our bodies, how we move our bodies, how we relate to our desires, to our sexuality, to our sensuality, how we go inwards and create space inside for expansion, for abundance, for more clarity, for repair. And so it's been just such a beautiful journey, and I'm really excited to continue and allow it to evolve in that way. Yeah, and it was birthed from this space of, you know, what felt like a loss of sovereignty. And one of the first and most important things I teach is a reclaiming of sovereignty. That wherever you find yourself, whatever someone is telling you, wherever you are, you get to choose what you take in, what you allow to settle in for you. You get to choose what you want and what you don't want in your space, physical, mental, emotional, energetic, the objects in the space, but just as much like the conversations that you allow in, just as much the relationships and the dynamics that you allow in and or don't. So I've gotten very good at boundaries this year. It's like one of the biggest things I've been practicing, and it's immense. And what it's allowed for is that I have more space for me, for my own true and authentic expression. And that's what I teach, and that's what I model, and that's what I continue to practice, so that I can then pass that on to others and give them that permission, and then also the practical tools to create it for themselves. And repair is so interesting because I've been thinking about this. So I've had a lot of situations recently where I've gotten an opportunity to really just practice this in the context of relationship with my kids. Everything is different now, and the way, we were a practically screen-free household before COVID began. And then all of a sudden they're on screens all day long for school. And then, of course, it's also the only way they can connect with their friends. And it's also the only way that, that it's this creative expression. And so building trust around devices has been like an epic journey. And there've been a couple times where there's a breakdown there. And most recently, there was a conversation that I had with my kids. And I said, look, here's the thing. Trust and distrust, they're like two ends of the spectrum. And we're always kind of walking in this space between. And to have a healthy relationship with each other, we get to continue to build and maintain trust. And when you are not honest with me, it's like you've turned away from trust and you've walked towards lack of trust, distrust. And so without shaming or blaming or criticizing, what would it take to turn back around and head back towards trust and rebuild that? And it's a process, right? It's a journey, because we journeyed away, now we get to journey back. And so, it was important to me and relatively new to approach these kinds of breakdowns with this perspective of, how do we repair? How do we not just explain why it's wrong and explain why it's bad and explain and shame, even with the gentlest, kindest tones, right? And I'm still practicing, I don't get it right, but it's been a beautiful new awareness to say, oh, there's another way. And so definitely been practicing that. And then another piece that's interesting, I found some notes in a little journal that I had from a program I was in the fall. And I was working with a coach named Maria Palumbo, and she had said, we had to let go of perfectionism. we're going to mess up. It's okay. We get to take risks. We get to mess up. We get to be human, and we get to be really good at repair. And I have lived most of my life terrified of messing up. I've towed the line so perfectly. And then anytime that I've sort of stepped off a little bit, you know, there's been like this massive consequence that just felt so big and so like so much. It was so traumatic. And so again, I'm kind of like retraining, like creating new pathways to say, what would it look like to just be authentic and true? What would it look like to allow all the parts of me to be present when I am feeling impatient or angry or hurt or sad? Like, what would it look like to just express myself bigger and more honestly in the moment? And if I'm wrong, if there's something that's out of alignment with another person, be willing to just go back in and repair it. And for me, it's interesting because there's also a level of like holding others accountable to the repair that's been even harder for me. And as I've learned this past year, a lot of that is a trauma response, right? It's a trauma response to it hasn't been safe for us. Maybe because of a personal situation, maybe because of a collective situation of women weren't allowed to get angry, right? Maybe because of just how society is set up. But it hadn't been safe for us to say, that doesn't feel good. That's not okay. And, you know, in one of my primary relationships right now, I've watched this growth happen where in the beginning, something would happen and it would take me a few days to process like how it didn't feel good. And then it would take me like a message of like, I need to talk to you about something. And then it would take like a few more days to get up the courage to have that conversation. And then the conversation would be okay. But it was like a week from like a small comment to like me explaining why it didn't feel good. And that was already improvement, I will say, right? That was already improvement. Whereas now it's like something doesn't feel good. And I'm able to say in the moment, give me space. This doesn't feel good. And then come back around sometimes within minutes, within half an hour, get grounded and just come back in and say, that wasn't okay. And here's why. Let's repair. But it has been built on this foundation of safety, because when I do that, the person responds with an acknowledgement, an apology, or I can't hear you right now. I need a little more time and space. And then still comes back in to the repair. And so that's the type of conscious relationship that I'm navigating now. And it's like a completely different paradigm. And it's so beautiful. And it takes muscle building on both people's part to be able to trust the safety that's there. And so we continue to remind each other, like, I'll say, I'm afraid it's not been safe to be angry, so I won't express when I'm angry. And they will say to me, it's always safe for you to be angry with me. And so we continue to build that safety. And that safety allows for us to go deeper and to have more clarity and intimacy in our relationship. And it's very, very powerful. But it does, yeah, it's just such a new paradigm, because it doesn't mean that we're doing things perfectly every step of the way. It just means that we are honest with each other, that we are open, not just about when we create a breakdown, but also when we are the recipient of a breakdown. It takes courage in both directions. So that is that's been a really powerful reclaiming for me. And as all of this unfolds, what I find is that at the end of all of it, I have a deeper and more intimate relationship with myself than ever before, because I'm no longer bypassing or abandoning myself. And so like what Amy was sharing, I loved that, like, okay, body, I hear you. We're hurting. What's going on? Right? Like, I'm not going to just gloss over the fact that that didn't feel good. I'm going to find a safe space to express myself. I'm going to find the words, the clear communication about how to start repairing, so that I'm always turning back towards myself, right? If we have that same spectrum of like trust and distrust, it's like towards self and away from self, right? When I start to turn away and I'm like, oh, abandoning myself, nope, no more, right? And the beautiful thing is, as I rebuild that trust with myself gets less tolerant of of the other thing, right? It's now it just will shout at me immediately, are you serious? No, we promised we wouldn't do this anymore, right? And it's so good, so good. It's creates this powerful and positive feedback loop. And so ultimately we repair the relationship with ourselves, and then we watch how that ripples out and repairing the relationships around us. And then the ripple effect of that has just been incredible, because I'm repairing relationships with my family now that I have these new tools. My partner is repairing the relationship with their family, and they have these new tools, and their friends. And I mean, there's so much restoring of integrity that's happening from this petri dish of where we've been practicing, right? And so it's I think maybe one of the most powerful tools that we have, Yeah. I think that's all I have to say, but I'm open to whatever comes next as this unfolds.
Beautiful, Tam. Thank you so much. The petri dish, the opportunity to just bear witness to your journey. We've known each other for a while now, and I haven't talked to you lately. Even when we were planning this, it's been on the calendar for quite some time, but it's we didn't talk, and now I'm appreciating the juiciness of that, because this was all fresh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just I want to show you, and I'll probably show you later, but I've moved my space around since knowing you. You helped me get the shoes into the closet next to the door downstairs, but now my bedroom is in a small room, and I have this big space that's my space to be. And I don't want to tip things around, but it's you and I, my experience is we give each other permission to explore that spectrum of being, full spectrum living, full spectrum expression, wholeheartedness. And when we can share what works with others, it's we're all on this continuum. And so to remember, we're all on this journey in some way, and the environment is a reflection of the mind. And I think personal shares anchor ideas. And so I love your tender, vulnerable heart. I love hearing what's going on. And what I would love to respond to is that sense of what I heard was trusting yourself to no longer abandon yourself, which is the first distinction.
It's just one of the most beautiful things that you first said to me, and has stayed with me forever.
Yay, yay. And from that place, focusing on getting right with yourself. Where have you abandoned yourself? Bringing in focus, which is the second distinction, and then the repair. And for me, my quick personal share around that has been to tolerate the discomfort, because I'm a harmony junkie. I'm also an order junkie. I like my environment to be clean. And so I'll do the white tornado. But to really look at the cost benefit analysis, is trying to get my environment clean while doing all this really getting me where I want to go? Is trying to get harmony and own my part in things and clear up, discomfort, truly allowing the relationship to unfold? And one thing I've been doing is allowing people the dignity of their own suffering in a way where I'm not God. I'm not the one to go in and fix it all. And that's really different for me. And in doing so this past couple of weeks with a very dear friend whom I love very much, but part of our relationship needed to shift, I was finally able to say, I need space. I'm going in my cave, because I felt blindsided by certain things. And then I was able to say, I need more space. We can't do this part of our relationship anymore. And then hearing the fallout of, no, space doesn't work, or I'm sad, but not rushing in to fix that. And the beautiful message I got this morning when I opened up my phone was, the little girl in me sees the little girl in you. And that's so tenderizing to my heart. Yeah.
Yes.
We're not repaired in terms of going back to our relationship the way it was, but there's no shame, blame, or criticism. There's no toxicity. So I share that from a personal, vulnerable place of, sometimes we don't get resolution. Sometimes we don't get the house remodel we want. I mean, there's so many aspects of our home that we could work on, but to tend to the beautiful altar, the epicenter of the space, to find the calm in the midst of the chaos, to be able to cultivate a tender heart, whatever that looks like. And I don't know what that looks like. So I'm continually turning it over and asking, okay, how do I repair this without just trying to make it all nice, neat, and tidy?
Am I able
Anything you
to do?
can respond to
Yeah.
that?
Oh, that sparked something really big. And it's so, of course, it just like, of course. The past week and a half, especially, I feel like the whole universe has been conspiring to heal my toxic caregiving pattern, caretaking, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to your point, the most recent time where something happened that where my whole body was saying no, and this person was kind of pushing me for a yes, I was like, it's not okay. We've promised each other that we'll trust the no and we'll wait for the yes. And I said it uh, even as like before I was able to say it, there was this moment of like, can I just soothe my nervous system? Can I get myself to a yes, right? And it wasn't.
Right.
But when I said it, and they acknowledged it, what unfolded, and they were asking for my support with something, what unfolded was that they ended up getting support from like 10 other people who were more resourced, more it like understanding the situation better than me. They had so much more access to everything they needed because I gave them my no.
Yeah.
And that was so healing for me to be like,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't all have to go through me. Like you said, I'm not God. I don't have to fix everybody else. I only get to trust my yes and my no and be in integrity with me and clarity. And so, yeah, it was exactly my experience of that we can end up cutting our loved ones off from true abundance and resource when we think that it all has to flow through this tiny vessel right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tam. I hope that this juicy, what turned into an organic conversation was stimulating for others. If you want to type in the chat, if you feel motivated, moved, what's something that you struggle with repairing, either in your home or your environment or in your relational field? That's one option, or pop in the chat something that jumped out to you that landed, that resonated from what was just shared. I'd love to see some interaction that way. And we're going to shift directions. Ev, I hope you're ready. Mary's going to do a quick intro for you, and you're up next. Thanks so much, everybody. And welcome to those of you who just joined.
And then I just realized, Tam just pointed out, I sent her the links. So I'm going to be, after I introduce Ev, I'll throw links in the chat that'll point you to Tam. So Ev, let's see, I got to get back to sorry guys. That was captivating. I'm telling you, I was completely just tumbled into your conversation, you two. Everett, where is it? I'm so sorry. Shoot, my boot.
You keep
Okay,
looking.
I'm sorry, I got it.
Okay.
Everett is Amy's firstborn son and a junior in high school at Parker School on the Big Island of Hawaii. Everett enjoys soccer, spending time with his family and friends, and is an active participant on the debate team at his school. He is committed to maintaining and repairing relationships in all areas of his life, and I will second that emotion, in order to get the most out of his experiences and the people around him. So Everett, go.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Everett, and I don't have a super rigid structure, but I'm just going to kind of talk about my own thoughts and ideas about repair and what that's kind of looked like in my own life. So the first thing I want to do to start this off is just kind of touch on the fact that so much of repair starts with self and self-acceptance, because I think, like Tam and like my mom and like so many people have already touched on, so much of that first step in the repair process is just accepting where we are at and where we are at with ourselves. And so because of this, self-acceptance really is a prerequisite to being able to forgive other people. Before we can try to fix all the external relationships in our lives, we really need to be in tune with how we are feeling and how we're reacting to the people and the situation around us. And I kind of want to bring in an analogy of a physical wound and a Band-Aid here. And like a physical wound, we need time to heal and repair. And when we think about a Band-Aid doesn't have any special healing properties in and of itself. But what the Band-Aid does is it helps keep the dirt and infections out. And so like a Band-Aid, we need time where we are free from distractions and we are free from external influences so we can get in tune with ourselves and then begin that process of repair. Now, it's also important to remember that we don't want to rush this process. Taking time to heal, it takes time to heal. Sometimes it takes longer than others, but we never want to try to rush this, because stepping into it and trying to be proactive when we are not in alignment with how we feel is not actually going to get to the core issue, and it's not going to actually feel any better because we're just not in the space to do that. And healing should also always be natural. I think from my experiences, this is a pretty key point here. There are plenty of tools and methods that can help prompt repair. In my mom's book, there are lots of different things, but there's a lot of techniques out there that can help us opening up and help us start this repair process. But with that said, don't ever try to superimpose so many of these different tools that you kind of lose track of where you are. You always got to be in alignment with yourself and come back to that self-acknowledgement, because that is so key and fundamental to getting to the fully deep repair that we're seeking. And being authentic is at the core of repair. Seeing yourself as you want to be seen, as well as how you are seen, is really the starting point. We all make mistakes in lives, and we're going to have experiences where we don't like actions that we've done or actions that other people have done. And that's going to require a level of repair that is going to vary from situation to situation. But we need to be in tune with ourselves, because unless we know what we actually want out of the scenario, all of the attempted repair is just kind of going to be frivolous, because we don't know what we're trying to get out of it. We got to have that end result in mind and actually know where we're desiring. We got to know what we want to feel with ourselves as well as with those around us before we actually get to the next part. And so I kind of want to talk about some of my own experiences with repair in my life. And from these, I've really learned you've got to talk about it. Human beings are social creatures, and it feels good to talk to people. Now, the most difficult part of this is usually the very initial starting point, because starting a conversation can be very daunting and intimidating. And I've had this experience in my own life also. But once we get that starting point and once we take that leap and start a conversation, a lot of it's just going to flow easier from there. And so when I get into arguments with my own brother, my younger brother, it doesn't feel good. I think talking it out is probably one of the last things that either of us want to do. But when we don't do this and we just kind of push it to the back burner and try to ignore it, it only feels worse over time. And I think this really kind of goes hand in hand with the feeling of guilt, which I know we can all relate to. It's the same thing where the longer we wait to talk about it and the longer we wait to own up to this guilt, it's just going to continue to erode our well-being and get progressively worse over time. So now I want to once again reiterate that this is not saying you got to rush the repair process. You should never try to rush it, but we can't just ignore it also. We can't keep pushing it to the back burner, because it's just going to continue to nag at us and it's not going to get us to where we want to be. Now, another thing I've noticed with my experiences with repair is you don't want to overcomplicate things. You want to get to the point, because once you acknowledge where you're at and you know what you want and where you are, then just get to the point. It's as simple as that. It really is. You don't want to overcomplicate things, because it's going to stray from where you want to be. And getting to the point also helps keep things valid. If you know what you want and you say that, the other person's going to hear that a lot clearer than if you're trying to weave and talk about all these other things. So that's going to be really important in helping to keep it valid. And I want to talk about another one of my own experiences, and this is in debate. And this is just a repair process, which I do continuously with myself. It's not with anyone else. But when I go into a debate round and I finish that round, I undoubtedly have things and I think to myself, wow, I should have said this here. I should have done this differently. There are so many of those lingering thoughts which are always there, but it's always a continual healing process, because I know I have another round to get to in 20 minutes and I don't want to be reliving these past mistakes in my mind. So it's that self-acceptance, that self-acknowledgement that's so key as the first step. And then just keeping it valid, saying, okay, it's okay, I did these things well, and next round I'm going to do even better. And that's so key and fundamental. And it also ties into what Tam was just briefly talking about, how we need to let go of perfectionism. We can't have perfectionism in all areas of our life. That's something I've tried for a long time. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And it's really draining on our energy to try to be perfect all the time. And so once again, that's something I've noticed in the debate, as well as just my grades in general. Like, I've gotten to a point where sometimes I acknowledge, yeah, maybe this physics assignment isn't the most important thing in my life right now. And that's okay, because 9 out of 10 times I am attentive and I'm totally up to everything I need to be doing. But there are other things that happen in life besides school and my grades, and that's okay. It's that self-acceptance again is so key. And so now, talking about things, like I said, it feels so good once you start. So the things I kind of want to have you remember are 3 simple steps. The first one being to accept yourself completely for who you are. It's as simple as that. It's not easy. It sounds simple. It's not easy. There's so many things we want to beat up on ourselves for, but that's okay. You got to just acknowledge that you're doing things right. You're doing things right. And if you can see that good in yourself, and you can see that you're in a solid place, other people are going to see that around you also. And so that first step, just accept yourself for who you are. And this ties into that acknowledgement piece. Like my mom said at the beginning, the extraordinary definition of repair is to acknowledge and then mend. It's not to try to jump in and mend right from the start. You got to acknowledge first, like I was saying. And the second thing is to trust the process. This goes back to the point about give it time. Don't rush it, but don't ignore it. It's that nice middle way right there. Just trust the process. It's going to be okay. You just got to be willing to do your part in it, because that's all you can do. And then finally, take that first step, whether that be writing about it, if that's how you express yourself, bringing that conversation to another person if there's an issue that you see as a parent, or just going into your own heart, going into your own mind and starting to forgive yourself, because so much of repair is internal. Repair is always internal. Even if it's with someone else, the internal comes before the external. So that's kind of the final step there. And it feels good to be in alignment with oneself. And if we can work to foster that as much of the time as possible, I think we're all going to be happier. So that's kind of my own experience with fear. I don't, not fear, sorry, repair there. Once again, not trying to superimpose that onto anyone else, but take what you can from that. And thank you. Glad I could be here.
You know, can I make my little noise, Ev? Whoop, whoop. I love to make that noise when I feel lit up. Wow. Holy smokes, Ev. I took notes. I have notes from you. What are the end results that I want in life? I don't hang out there very much, son. I tend to just go for that harmony, go for the process instead of truly thinking about what is the result I want. That's something I get to pay attention to. And of course, they get to the point. I'm a meandering, wandering, processing, all over the place kind of person. What becomes available to me when I get to the point and I simplify to amplify whatever message it is that I'm putting out to the universe, to my relationships, to my higher power, to my inner soul, whatever that is. And finally, that last bit about I tend to be a ruminator. I tend to hang out with things and ruminate. Perseverate is a term I remember when I worked with people with traumatic brain injury. It's like the old days, those of us who remember record albums when the needle gets stuck in a groove and it just keeps going around and around, you know. Nancy, are you laughing? I can't tell. Okay. That perseveration of just like, it's like, no, let's move along. And I think ruminate's probably related to cows when they chew their cud, they're just hanging out on the same thing over and over again. So holy smokes, guys, this stuff works. I did not script that for my son, but what a gift to hear his take on it, to hear his wisdom. And he and I looked at an old video that we had done on repair on our Connected Parents Thriving Kids when Team got up there. And he looked at it and he didn't do any of the stuff that was in that. And I'm like, great, he's going to do his own thing here. And my heart couldn't be happier with that share. Thank you. Getting some hearts from Colleen there, Ev. So I'd love to, just take a moment and tune into the chat. I think Lukash wrote in about his relation with his father doesn't work too well. So that area that's kind of knocking, looking for some repair. So my hope is that you got something from this offering. We covered some ground before you popped on. The recording will be available, and I'll be here to ask Amy anything at the top of the hour so we can exchange that. I just wanted to acknowledge that I got your chat. Anybody else wants to drop a chat of what's landing with them, what they might take with them from our topic on repair. As I look back over the years of really working with these principles of daily living, of the everydayness of how to do right relationships, repair is the one that I have the most material on. I just don't think we can have enough tools of how to repair and how to bring our best selves forth. And I love that Tam and Ev both brought up no need for perfection here. Like, embrace the imperfection, embrace the fact that we are all wounded in relationship and we can all heal in relationship. And how do we go about doing that without setting the bar too high? So in closure, I want to say one way I do that is I keep things real. REAL is a fun acronym that I've really been playing with. It's actually feedback that Mark and I got from one of our couplehood mindsets, Keep It Real Valentine alternative to the commercialism of Valentine's Day event back when we used to all meet in person. And couples gave feedback of what they were taking with them. That's why I love to get your feedback. You're helping me help others. So what's landing with you, what works? What they got from the work we were doing around relationship was they wanted real relationships. The acronym R stands for resourced. If someone is resourced, they are grounded in their own sovereignty. Tam and I share that word. We work with our clients around sovereignty, knowing we have the ability to self-soothe and we need emotional connection to others to lift each other up, because enlightenment is a team sport. Yeah. So it's the big both and. Keep it real, be resourced, be E is engaged. Connect with each other, talk, repair when necessary, allow that energetic exchange of excellence. The A is aware, and we've all spoken to that on some level today. We must be aware of our impact on the situation. When Tam and I were in leadership, we learned this important idea of when we enter a room, what is the energy we're bringing into the room? You know, and am I being instrumental, detrimental, or inconsequential to this experience? Without like being neurotic and walking on eggshells in my life, I can kind of reflect on that. Like, oh, is this working? Is this helping me? Is this helping others? REA, aware, L, loving. I'm learning more and more how to be loving. And when the little girl in me sees the little girl in you, I'm more loving. When the little girl in me recognizes I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, there's a greater hum. That's another great self-soothing. Hum tunes our vagus nerve. It just like calms us down. I did that the other day. The dolphin swam toward me. The whale song got louder, and I'm not making this stuff up. I can sing with joy about nature. All right, come on, laugh with me. All right, how are we doing on time? I'd love a few more moments of your time to talk about a couple of my offerings, both free and paid offerings. Does that work for y'all before the top of the hour? Awesome, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Tam's going to come visit us. Tam and Ev and I had a fun putt-putt golf rally last time we were in California. That was so much fun. We don't have putt-putt here, Tam, but we will find those dolphins. Yeah. So yeah, that's my first big give is as things are shifting with the pandemic, with things opening up, whatever timeline that might be, the possibilities, the seeds of in-person connections are once again sprouting. You are all welcome to the Big Island. Forming retreats, doing things in person just excites me to no end. The gig called Life Coaching Practice that I have with Mary as a project manager, Everett as a participant, sometimes showing up here, my husband, my son, Toby. What a thrill to think about those possibilities. In the meantime, I have a free give every Wednesday at noon Pacific time on Instagram at amyelizabeth.gordon. Mayor, I think you can throw that Instagram handle in the text. We do breathing work. We do quick laser pause, breathe, reset. My beloved friend Deva shows up there. Yeah, she is my guinea pig, and we share the screen and we pour into you with usually 10, 15 minutes of breath work practice. So join us there on Instagram. I do these variety hours each month, second Saturday of the month, noon Pacific. Invite others. Let's make this magic together. If you feel moved to be a guest, reach out to me. Let me know what you might be inclined to do. Get my book so you can see what the next distinction will be, the next theme. Next month will be faith. And then I also have a masterclass series, which, you know, at the beginning of the year, I tried to launch this, and it's getting there. We could certainly use some more participants, right, Tanya? Please join us the third Friday of every month at, I believe that's also noon Pacific. And y'all are getting ready to change clocks. I know Europe, Tanya's in France, it'll be a little later. Lukasz is in Poland. Our clocks for the mainland US change tonight. I think we don't, so I will adjust on my end. But third Friday of the month, Masterclass, where we dive deeper into whatever the distinction is. Mary's gonna pop some texts, some chats in. $40 is the standard monthly membership. That's a way of helping to support this programming, support the give. It's also gives you access to some of my other rich resource libraries and materials. I really pour into you. It's a very small group, and we go deep, and that's available as the Masterclass series. If you want to sponsor others and can give a little more, it's $60 a month. If you need financial assistance, please reach out to us. We do have a $20 coaching program starting in April. So you'll hear more about that at the next masterclass. Mayor, how am I doing here? I'm not even looking at our agenda. I'm just going by mind here. Oh, I also added in a new one. Those of you who Masterclass series but want to be a supporter in any way to Gig Called Life, it's the PayPal link, Mayor, the love offering, where people can go in and just decide whatever amount they want to throw in there. That's the other link that I think I gave you access to. Lots of links. Link on in this energetic exchange of excellence. We are coming to the top of the hour. I want to thank you all for being here once again, for helping share the good news of transformation. If you know anybody who could benefit from watching the recording of this, reach out to me, help@amyelizabethgordon.com. I think you are all on my mailing list. If you're not, you can reach me there. We're not going to throw yet another link at you. Everett popped off. He's so eager to go watch the rest of the Man City game. Are you already out of here, Ev? Are you watching soccer already? Bless his heart for giving time. We're going to close our circle in a very intentional way. I honor you. I value you. I hold you high in my heart as we acknowledge this year-long. Lukasz and Tanya, is it a year-long anniversary for the COVID lockdown for you as well? A little bit less, a little bit more?
Kind of,
feel
yeah.
free to unmute and tell me. Is it the anniversary time for you as well?
Yes, it is.
Health Organization, I think, marked it this time for the global pandemic. We're all going through this together. So good to have you here. Let's take a deep breath in, letting go. Deep breath in, being here. Deep breath in, gently asking, now what? Now what? I'd like to close.
It's frozen.
Let's take a deep breath in. What's happening? Letting go.
Froze.
Do you hear that?
Yeah, you froze. You were frozen.
Do you hear me? But do you hear me doing the breath work? Gently asking, now what? Okay, maybe. Now what? I'd like to close